Well, hello there. This is your favorite fresh air junkie and science nerd, Nikki Hardy, and welcome to the Wildly Known Life podcast. This is a podcast that unearths the hidden power of nature to help us live happier, healthier, and more meaningful lives full of connection and purpose. Before we dive in, would you do me a quick favor? If this episode resonates with you, would you share it with all your friends? This podcast is growing slowly through word of mouth, which is wonderful. And I'm so grateful because you are the reason. And also, when you follow the show in whatever podcast platform you use, it's not only helpful to us enormously, but it ensures that you get all our best episodes in your podcast feed so you don't miss a thing. Okay, let's dive in. Let's get wild. How do you turn a wolf into a dog? I mean, really, Charlie, our rather lovely but rather ridiculous golden doodle, is sitting under my desk right now, and he couldn't be further in his looks and in his temperament from his wild wolf ancestors. We all know going from a wild, wary, independent, and potentially dangerous animal to the creature asleep on your sofa, or waiting for you to come home, or even snuggling with your newborn hasn't happened overnight. It's happened over generations. As we've continually selected for certain characteristics and rewarded certain behaviors, eventually, over hundreds of years, the wild, independent, untamed, and unpredictable wolf became the soppy, floppy pooch with high inclusivity needs sitting on my foot right now. Which, of course, got me thinking, have we as humans become domesticated versions of the wildly wonderful people we were created to be? Not in some sinister, the Matrix dystopian way, where we're being harvested for our energy, but in everyday, ordinary ways. Maybe as we learn that being agreeable makes life easier, or as we become the woman who says, sure, whatever works for everyone else, before we've even figured out what works for us. Or as we learn that being useful, good, or pretty gets us attention and approval. Or we learn that asking too many questions makes people uncomfortable, so we stop asking. Or we learn that being responsible means never letting anything drop, and we become terrible at allowing ourselves to rest, saying, oh, I'll rest when everything's done. And eventually, we don't see these things as choices. They're just who we are. They're what we do. 30 years ago, poet and writer Linda Hogan joined a group learning about grey wolves indigenous to an area in Minnesota. In her essay reflecting on the experiences, Defy the Wolf, that she published in 1995, she talks about how the biologists she tagged along with captured and collared grey timber wolves in order to track them, learn about them, and support the survival of the species. The packs, Hogan said, had learned to chew collars off one another, and one pack was even documented to have taught another pack how to conduct this collar removal procedure for its pack members. She writes, the packs here have learned to chew collars off one another. According to biologists, one pack even taught a second pack how this was done. As they said this, there was again a tone of admiration in their voices, a respect for the intelligence of wolves. Now, we humans have figured out how to put collars on. The wolves figured out how to take them off, and then they taught each other. One wolf's learning became another wolf's freedom. Collars are instruments of domestication, and maybe we're all wearing the unseen restraints of society or hurt, religion, or even expectation. And if the wolves can teach us anything, it's that becoming less domesticated isn't about becoming more rebellious, although at times it might take that. Maybe it's about noticing where we've become overly trained, or how the invisible collars we wear restrict who we are, where we automatically make ourselves smaller, where we automatically say yes or explain ourselves, where we automatically choose what's sensible over what makes us feel most alive, or where we've become so accustomed to the collar that we no longer ask, who put this here? Do I still need it? And of course, I wonder in the same way if we've domesticated Jesus too, made him safe and predictable, convenient, and someone who agrees with us, someone who blesses the life we've already constructed. Have we taken that wild, disruptive, upside down Jesus of the Gospels and made him remarkably manageable? I know I'm guilty of this at times. But Jesus wasn't particularly interested in making people more comfortable. He called people out of boats, out of tax booths, out of respectable religious systems. He ate with the wrong people, touched the untouchable, asked inconvenient, embarrassing, and probing questions. And he told people to leave important things, loved ones, and possessions behind. He didn't seem terribly interested in domestication, and neither the Jewish leaders or the Romans, who had domesticated most of Europe, could tame him. And maybe following him isn't about becoming a nicer, more acceptable version of ourselves. Maybe sometimes it's about removing our collars, showing others how to remove theirs, and becoming less tame and less domesticated, becoming the wild, wonderful humans we were created to be. Now, I'm not going to try and tell you what your collar is, because honestly, I've got no idea. I don't want to give you another list of things you're supposed to fix either. But maybe this week, we can all start to simply notice. Notice the moments we say, I should. Notice the moment we want to say no, but hear ourselves saying yes. Notice the thing we want to do, but immediately tell ourselves why we can't. Notice the opinions we swallow, the desires we dismiss, the part of ourselves we've trained to be quiet. And just ask, is this a boundary? Is this healthy? Or is it maybe a collar? Is this wisdom and love? Or is it taming all the wild out of me? Now, don't get me wrong. The goal isn't to become completely untamed, wild, and unmanageable. The fully wild and untamed Nikki would have all the rough, sharp, hurtful edges God's been slowly sanding down over the years in full show. We're human beings after all. Like the wolves, we're social animals that live in packs and need one another. We need boundaries. We need commitments. But maybe there are places we've become far more domesticated than God ever intended. And maybe our pack aren't the people closest to us, but the people who look at us and are willing to say, you don't have to keep doing that. You can ask that question. You can change your mind. Take that rest. It'll be okay. You're allowed to want something different, something more. You can take the collar off. Here, let me show you how. Maybe that's the pack that we need to find. And maybe in return, we get to become that person for somebody else. The wolf who knows the collar that can come off. Where in your life have you become so accustomed to being domesticated that you've forgotten you were made for wildness? And so, as we end, as we always do, with a simple, embodied, repeatable practice, prayer, or invitation to take into our day, this week we're going to hold the questions from today, and then I simply have a short blessing to pray over us. But first, let's settle ourselves with our centering prayer. And here, as we take time to be with God now, let's rest a moment in stillness, returning our wandering minds to his presence and responding with openness. God of creation, as we hold these questions of how domesticated we've become, how much we've tamed ourselves from the wildly wonderful creatures you've created us to be, how we've domesticated you and your son and our relationship with all that you are, and as we question what invisible restraints we need to remove and how we might be the ones to help others ditch theirs, Lord, may we be people who have eyes to notice the collars restraining us and holding us back. May we have the courage to ditch them even when living without them feels vulnerable and even scary. And may we be willing to remove the collar from our neighbour with gentleness, love, and compassion. Thanks for spending this time with me on the Wildly Known Life podcast and sharing it with all your equally wildly wonderful friends who long to stop being domesticated and live the wild, wonderful life they were created for. You can also find me and lots of ways to get into nature and live a happier, healthy life over on the Wildly Known Life on Substack. And it's often there that the deeper conversation happens. The link's in the show notes as always, and I'd love to see you there. And as always, step outside, take a breath, drop your shoulders, and see what our wildly wonderful God has to say. Until next time, my friend, stay wild.